welcome you into the locker room this week. Got a great show, all kinds of stuff to talk about, and the top story really for everybody Monday night. We saw probably the best national championship we could ask for.
I mean, absolutely. And you posed a question probably about 2 weeks ago after the first round, and then we had that first round, that second round where we had all these major upsets, and we tried to rank where this first round was, and we sit at or near the top. And it almost seems fitting that this is the way this tournament ends. With the championship game coming down to the wire, the last 8 seconds, some of the most memorable basketball, some of the most memorable sports you will ever see. And just the fight, the determination, the grit. And a lot of times we in sports will take a good ending and call it a good game. When it really wasn't a good game, it was a good ending. This was a good game all the way through, and really those last 8 seconds were just unbelievably phenomenal.
Both teams, usually you see a team that's a little ahead of the other.
Right.
These two teams were so even.
Yeah.
And we knew that going into the game.
Right.
But we thought maybe one team would be hot, maybe one wouldn't. But it was like watching the same team on both sides.
Yeah, and it was funny because North Carolina came in as the team that dominated down low and shot the three-pointer terribly. And Villanova came in as the team that was the good shooting team, and if they were going to win, they would have to out-rebound North Carolina. But North Carolina came out on fire, and they hit 11 three-pointers, which they hadn't ever hit 11 three-pointers and lost the game. All the other games that they hit that many threes, they had won. And Villanova in the second half just kept coming back and kept coming back and kept hitting shots, and you could just tell just by the energy of the building that it was going to have a great finish. But I don't know if anybody predicted what we ended up seeing with Marcus Page shooting a crazy shot right here where he double pumps it, shoots it on the way down with 4.7 to go. And then you have the ending that we had. It's just we got so used to these two teams in the first half playing so well. And then the way the teams finished, it was just unbelievable.
I've been watching basketball a long time. I know you have too. Every time I watch this, it's like you couldn't ask for a better national championship ending. I had North Carolina winning on my bracket.
Right.
I really wanted them to win.
Right.
But still, I couldn't be upset because of this ending.
Yeah, I mean, this moment and that moment, it encapsulates everything that we love about sports. And this is the first time ever that the game was won on a buzzer beater that's a shot. Obviously, back in, I think it was 1983, you had the Villanova NC State game, or the NC State game where it was a tip-in. And this was a shot, and not a luck shot, not a fluke shot, not like that shot that Northern Iowa beat Texas with, not a half quarter. It was a sound shot on a set play, and the guy that passed them the basketball, he was the leading scorer and ended up being the most valuable player for the tournament. I can't pronounce his last name, Archie something. But to me, Villanova won this in so many respects. And honestly, if you're breaking it down, they were probably the best team in the tournament. They were shooting close to 60%. And if you want to name a number 2 team, it was North Carolina. They dominated their competition as well. And so we got the perfect matchup and then the perfect game and then an unbelievable finish.
That was definitely one of the most fun games I've ever watched. Also, the women's national championship this week, we knew what kind of game it would be.
Right.
UConn, of course, pulled it out for their 4th straight.
A lot less drama in this one, really a lot less drama, really, as you date back, going throughout the course of the year. But what really impresses me about UConn, what really impresses me about Gino Auriemma and this group is that they are the hunted every single game. And the focus that they have to have and the poise they have to have is just phenomenal. And I think we're seeing, and what we saw now that her career is done, Breanna Stewart, probably one of the best women's basketball players to ever play. And she can go up there with Cynthia Cooper and Lisa Leslie and Elena Delle Donne. I think that you could just put her right up there with it. I mean, a 4-time most valuable player in the tournament. And just the way she dominated really on both sides. I mean, she was blocking shots. She led the team with 24 points. And the score in and of itself is about what we expected to see out of UConn, another dominating win. But I'll tell you what this program is, what this program has done, a lot of people like to dismiss what UConn's done. We've heard a lot of people in the national media kind of trying to dismiss what this team has done. I'm not. I think this is phenomenal, and they should be up top as far as any domination, as any dynasty that's ever played. You can put them up there with UCLA men's basketball, Alabama football, and as well as the Chicago Bulls basketball, New England Patriots football, the New York Yankees, any of those dominating teams that you want to go with, this era of UConn women's basketball right up there with it.
We'll be talking about some more basketball a little bit later on, but let's shift over outside to baseball. JSU, they've been undefeated in conference play. They dropped 2 this weekend up in Illinois, but they came back out and got a win over a win this week as well. Yeah,
they got one over UAB. It's a team that has gone to the regionals before, and so they're playing another what we would like to call a playoff team. And what we're seeing out of JSU right now is a lot of great hitting and solid pitching. And I mean, they've scored double-digit runs now in plenty of games. And what I really like to see about this team with Coach Case is they are so solid, 1-9. And anybody can hit. And right now, Josh Bobo is playing really well, a guy that's out of Etowah High School. And they have guys like Pascal Petrangolo, who came into the year as an All-American candidate. And I just think that with the way JSU's playing right now, they have put themselves in contention to win any game against any opponent. And they're rolling right now. If they could just keep this momentum going, it'd be interesting to see where they are because, I mean, they're still undefeated in conference play. If they get some good non-conference wins under their belt like they did the first game of that SIU series and then the game against UAB the other day, I just think that they'll put themselves in great position moving forward.
Now, the softball team at JSU, they're on a roll as well, 11-0 in conference play. They swept Tennessee State this weekend. They lost to UAB last night, but still, I mean, what a spring sports season JSU's having so far.
Yeah, I mean, and you couple that with what happened in football and then some new energy coming on in the basketball program. I mean, it's a good time to be a JSU fan of athletics, but the softball team, we've seen this time and time again with Jana McGinnis's club. Each year you want to see something different. This year, we're seeing it really kind of both ways. Just like the baseball team, we're seeing lots of great hitting, but unbelievable pitching. When you throw out girls like Taylor West, and one of the big ones this year has been Whitney Gillespie, threw a no-hitter the other day. And whenever you have pitchers who are giving up a 1-point-something or 0-point-something ERA, you're in every ball game. And when you have hitters like JSU, just get a little bit of run support, you're in good shape right now. So JSU basketball, or JSU baseball and softball right now, undefeated in OVC play, really bodes well moving forward for both squads.
We'll keep you updated with all of the spring sports action at JSU and everywhere. We're going to grab a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk some high school sports and we'll check in with a local racer. Stay with us here in the locker room. And right back here in the locker room, and we've been talking about some spring sports the last segment. We're going to talk some more this time, and it always seems that we've got some great spring sports here in East Alabama.
Yeah, when you talk about high school football, when you talk about high school baseball, when you talk about high school softball, when you talk about tennis and golf, well represented here in the East Alabama area, and obviously moving forward as we move into the month of April and going into May and we start crowning some champions, we'll not be a bit surprised if we see multiple champions come from this area.
Let's take a look now at some of the top 10s of our local teams that are ranked in the Alabama High School Sports Writers Association Top 10. We'll start with baseball in 6A. And there you see Southside there at number 10 and Decatur at number 9. And there you see the Oxford Yellow Jackets. They were on a 20-game win streak. They got that snap, but now they're on another win streak, 4 or 5 games. They keep winning. They're a good team. Opelika, Spanish Fort, Coleman, who is outstanding. They've got 3 Division I players on their team. And then Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, Muscle Shoals, Hartselle, and Florence at number 1. Then in 4A, number 10, Sipsey Valley, Haleyville in at number 9. There you see one of our local teams, Hoax Bluff, at number 8. Followed by Cherokee County, number 7, Jacksonville, number 6, and UMS Wright leads 4A at number 1. Now let's move to softball now in 6A. There you see Walker at number 10, but let's move down. Pell City, number 5, the Oxford Yellow Jackets, number 3, Chelsea, number 2. Now this week, Oxford defeated Chelsea 4-1 to claim their area, so the Oxford will be hosting their area tournament out here after that win against Chelsea. And then Southside sits at number 1 in 6A. So like we see there, 2 of our local teams there in the 6A poll.
Yeah, and if you want to even stretch it out to Pell City, that's 3 teams in the top 5, and that's really, really impressive. Oxford getting a huge win over Chelsea, and that's big moving forward because, like I said, those are two teams that can compete and win state championship.
And there you see in the Class 5A softball poll, the Alexandria Valley Cubs sit at number 5, and Rehoboth, they've been at number 1 for a while there. And in 4A, we got Cleburne County at number 5, and then number 1, of course, everybody knows Curry High School, number 1 team in America in high school softball. So Cleburne County, they got a tough road if they want to win the state championship.
Yeah, they're in a good spot right now, but I mean, you look up at the top of that poll, and it's a team that's got 3 players going to the SEC, another player going to UNA. Curry is every bit as good as the ink that's been spilled on them as far as being a top team. And it's a team that is from a very, very small part of Alabama, but they're super, super impressive. But Cleburne County putting themselves in a really good position to make a challenge for them, and we'll see if they can pull off an upset, because all you need is one game to see if you can do it in the regionals or at state.
And next up here in our polls, we got Class 3A. Pleasant Valley sitting there at number 8 in the 3A poll, with Hale County leading that at number 1. And in 1A, we have got Ragland coming in at number 4, Coosa Christian at number 5, and Spring Garden at number 2. Again, 3 local teams here in this 1A poll. Yeah,
3 local teams in the top 5, and it speaks to the power and the tradition that is here in this part of the state. And I love the fact that baseball and softball are so big in this state, and I really like the fact that these teams will be competing for state championships late in the game. Now, the way that baseball and softball playoffs are devised, it's a little bit different. So it'll be on those teams to find good pitching rotations, and then also find the bats early and see how they can manage and maneuver in order to win state championships. But so far, so good for local teams in this area, and I like to see how they progress as we move along.
Well, coming up next week here in Calhoun County, it's the Calhoun County softball tournament. You know, we were talking just a second ago. We love this tournament. You know, Calhoun County puts on the best sporting tournaments out there, and this softball team all in one place. You get to see so much softball out there at Oxford Lake. Yeah,
they do a great job with this tournament. Like you said, they put everybody in the same area. We saw so many of those teams in the statewide polls. So you're seeing some of the best playing all in this same tournament, and then with bragging rights on the line. So there adds a little bit of extra drama. We've talked about this with the basketball tournament and with the baseball tournament as well, that this one is so much fun to watch because you have everybody. Every school is in this mix, and every school has got a legit chance to win.
Well, let's take a look at these seeds from this year's Calhoun County softball tournament that will take place next week. Of course, there you see the Oxford Yellow Jackets at number 1, followed by Alexandria, and then the Piedmont Bulldogs. The number 8 team in 3A, Pleasant Valley at number 4. Sachs Wildcats at number 5. Ohatchee at number 6. Welborn 7. White Plains 8. Jacksonville 9. Faith Christian at 10. Weaver 11. And Jacksonville Christian at 12. And of course, you know, Gerhard, we love to keep up with local people that go on to do great things, and one of those, Mumford native, he graduated from Donahoe, Brett Holmes. We've talked about him here on this show. We went out and did a one-on-one interview with him. This Saturday, he will make his debut in the ARCA Series.
Yeah, we've talked about this for a while now, and he's been kind of flirting with this stage of his development for a while now. And then this year, he'll race in 7 races. It'll start off this weekend. And you go back to some of the things he did, like at Daytona, when he finished 3rd in testing. This kid's fearless, and now it's all about just getting comfortable in the racing, and which I think he will, and he'll get a good test in Nashville before coming back to another big track after going to Daytona back in January. He'll hit Talladega in late April. I'm really interested to see what he does moving forward because, like we said, he's got the talent, the driving talent, to go as far as the sport can take him, all the way to Sprint Cup, and to see this kind of in its infancy, so to speak. I mean, he's gone all the way from go-karts, and he is where he is now. So we will see where he goes, and I'm really, really interested to see what happens this weekend.
I had a chance to speak with Brett on the phone today, and here's what he had to say leading up to his ARCA debut Saturday.
But it's definitely a lot of pressure on me, you know, to do well, to perform well, but I'm pretty confident in myself to do it, and I'm already familiar with Nashville a good bit. I've raced there a lot in my late model before, so I don't really have any trouble trying to figure out the line to be on in the track. It's just getting used to the car, really, because there's so much difference between the weight and motor to get used to. But like I said, I'm pretty excited for it. I think we'll have a good running, honestly. When we tested there a few weeks back, we were running really good, just as fast as the other guys that were there, or faster with compared to Venturini Motorsports and a lot of those other guys that are there that have been doing this for a while.
And we'll keep you updated with Brett and his racing career and his racing season here on the Locker Room. We're going to grab another timeout. When we come back, it's the Locker Room Roundtable. Stay with us. Back here in the locker room, and it's time for the Locker Room Roundtable. We've been keeping up with Golden State this season and the season they've had in the NBA. They've got 4 games, 4 wins to break the record.
Right.
Is it going to happen?
You know, we've seen such a magical basketball season in this area. We've talked about magical basketball, and I'll date this all the way back to Spring Garden and Sacred Heart in our area. The kind of season Alabama had. Auburn, the wheels fell off a little bit, but they had a good year. An amazing basketball tournament in college. I think this trend continues. I just think that we keep rolling with this, and I think that we do see history. One of the things about Golden State, especially these last few games, they play a lot of tough teams. They play the San Antonio Spurs. They play the Memphis Grizzlies a couple of times. They play teams that can beat them. But this team is so good with their backs against the wall, and I just don't see them getting close and not getting that 4th win. If they can give themselves maybe 1 or 2 wins to go with about 4 or 5 games left in the season, I think they're in a lock. And I think that if they have 2 wins to go in the last 3 games of the season, it puts a little bit of pressure on them. But I just don't. I think that this is that year. This is the year that everything is just kind of falling into place in this sport. And it's been a pleasure to watch, and I think it happens. I think they get 73.
Staying with basketball, UAB, they've been without a coach after Jared Haas went to Stanford, but they made the hire this week in Rob Eason. He's been an assistant at UAB for the past 4 seasons under Jared Haas. He's worked for some great coaches. I think this is a great hire for UAB.
Yeah, I think so too. It was the guy that all the players wanted, and they were open about it. When as soon as Jared Haas left and Eason was named the interim head coach, the writing was kind of on the wall that he would at least have the upper hand when it came to the search. Now, this search was long and wide, if you believe the AD Mark Ingram, because they interviewed everybody from a current basketball player right now, and Jason Terry, who's in his 18th millionth year in the NBA. He is just a guy that's been in the league for a long time.
Right.
Knows a lot of good basketball. It would be interesting if they did hire him. But just to see the names that popped up during this search, it was interesting overall, because I think it has a slight domino effect in the way JSU will move going forward, because it's 2 Division I basketball programs kind of looking for the same caliber head coach. And for Eason, great move for him personally. 33 years old. He recruited a lot of these guys. He's been with Haas for 4 years, so they could just continue what they started. They've won 2 championships, a conference regular season and a tournament championship. They've won an NCAA championship game. I think much like what happened with JSU when they went from Bill Clark to John Gross, I think this is a lot of the same thing going from Jared Haas to Rob Eason.
It'll be interesting to see. And again, staying with the basketball coach, Gino Auriemma winning his 11th national championship this week. Is there still some left in him? I mean, after you win that much, it kind of gets, it's normal.
Right.
How hard is it going to be to stay with it for him?
The thing is that I'm not sure, because you would figure it might hit at this point, or maybe a little bit earlier. But he also gets a respite because he coaches also the Team USA women's basketball, so he gets to coach some international ball, kind of like Coach K over at Duke. Does the same thing with the men, coaches Team USA. I don't know if for him he wants to coach the men. I would think that would be the next logical step to see if he can coach the men on the elite level and do the same thing he's done with the women. He is a phenomenal recruiter. That's because he's a phenomenal salesman, and that's what we see with all the great recruiters, that they can sell the program, sell themselves, sell the university, and sell the culture that they want to invite. But he can just keep rattling these things off, because usually every year he will get players 1 through 20, and they will be in the top 15 to top 25 in America as far as overall players go. So recruiting will not be a problem for him. And for him, it's just if he wants to keep that hunger and see how long he can keep it going. It's just sad that we don't have somebody like a Pat Summitt
Right.
to kind of rival him right now. We saw lots of great runs with those two coaches, and we'll see if Baylor, South Carolina, some of these other upper echelon teams like Syracuse that they played in the national championship, Oregon State, who made a surprise in the Final Four, if those kind of teams can step up and make their way into the conversation, it'll be interesting. But as of right now, it's Gino Auriemma to lose. And I'll say this. If there's Rushmore, Mount Rushmore of coaches, in my opinion, he's on it.
Oh, yeah.
He's on it with Phil Jackson. He's on it with Nick Saban. He's on it with Bill Belichick. He's on it with Joe Torre. I think he's that caliber of coach, and I think he doesn't get enough credit because he does coach women, and it's such a dominating program. But in my opinion, he's there.
What's it going to take for other schools to get up to his level?
It's going to take a lot of talent spreading themselves out. We saw like when Brittany Griner went to Baylor. That's a classic kind of girl that would have gone to UConn. And if we can get more of these elite athletes, I watched the McDonald's All-American game, both the men's and the women's side, not too long ago. And what I saw out of that was most of the top-tier women are going to UConn. Now, if we can, if college basketball, women's basketball can get to where they spread out, Notre Dame will get a lot. And Stanford will get a lot. Tennessee gets a lot. Baylor gets a lot. That's what we see in the men's program is that, yeah, a lot of the elite guys go to Kentucky, but not all of them.
Right.
Some go to Duke. Some go to Kansas. And if we spread the wealth a little bit, just a little bit, then I think we wouldn't have this overwhelming 31-point win in national championship games.
Well, that will do it for this week's edition of the show. But there's a few times you can catch the show again if you would like to. And it's 7:30 a.m., 4:30, and 8:30 p.m. on Thursdays, and 6:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Fridays. And, of course, TV24.tv on demand and on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us this week here in the Locker Room. We will be back next week, so join us then.